Here.
Commissioner Myers,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Councilman Maniscalco,
Here.
Councilman Citro,
Here.
Councilman Dingfelder,
Present.
Mayor Ross,
Here.
Commissioner Kilton,
Here.
Gina Evans,
Here.
Board Member Williams,
Here.
Joe Wagoner, Bob Frey, Charles Klug,
Here.
Commissioner Powell,
Here.
and Board Member Vaughn, Melissa Snively. I do need to let you know that some members are participating virtually because of medical reasons and the local declaration of emergency.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just say, I am having, not able to see who's participating virtually on the iPad, so I'll need some assistance with that. I heard Commissioner Smith say that she was here. I'm not sure who else is participating virtually. If we could have a motion for approval of the minutes of November 10th, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Commissioner Myers. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. We are very lucky and honored this morning to have a special presentation. I'm going to ask Beth Alden to introduce it, and I'm going to go to the other side of the room to make the award.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And on behalf of the TPO, we're very pleased to be presenting an award this morning, our annual Vision Zero Hero Award to Miss Lena Young Green.
All right.
She was one of several of our community members who were nominated this year. The applications were reviewed by our Livable Roadways Committee, and they unanimously recommended Ms. Young Green for an award. And I'd like to read from her nomination form. Saying Lena is simply a civic activist does not give justice to the many years she has provided a voice to the residents, children, and businesses in the historically underserved community of Tampa Heights and to similar neighborhoods throughout the city and county. She has worked with FDOT to preserve the Tampa Heights Community Center, which offers the area children a safe place to learn and play. She has been a leader in the Coalition of Community Gardens and partnered with the TPO on the Healthiest Cities and Counties Challenge, the Garden Steps Project. Her vision is expanding access to healthy food through the creation and support of community gardens and the provision of safe access, particularly walk-bike access to these spaces. This project has led to the creation of the Hillsborough Health Atlas, collaborations with schools, and the establishment of multiple community gardens and front yard planter gardens. The 22nd Street Demonstration Garden continues to offer classes to the public and serves as a focal point for the neighborhood. She has also pursued grants and agency assistance to create summer camp programs in Tampa Heights, Palm River, and Town and Country. And one of Lena's main concerns was to include in the curriculum safety lessons aimed at giving the children skills to survive when walking and biking, as many of their families are zero auto households. As if that weren't enough to keep this proud mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother busy, her desire to have safe ways to navigate the city and county on foot or bicycle led her to play a key role in the development of the Green Artery, a trail that will eventually create, a trail corridor that will eventually create 22 miles of trails and connect dozens of Tampa's parks, green spaces, and neighborhoods. Lena participated in outreach to many of the neighborhoods along the Green Artery Trail Corridor and has been a continuing advocate to fund this citizen-led initiative. So we just want to thank Lena for all of her many years of hard work and of working with us to improve this community. And also want to thank On Bikes for donating a gift certificate in appreciation of Lena's service.
Lena, I'm going to present you with this award. Before I do, and before we go down for a picture with the entire board, I want to just say how nice it is to be standing next to someone who has been in the trenches fighting for this community, literally for,
Check.
I know that I've known you for well over 10 years. The first time we met, you were planning a community garden, and it was right when I started on city council, and that garden has grown. And you've just been part of so many wonderful initiatives in the community. This particular award, the Vision Zero Hero, is for going above and beyond in a commitment to improving driving, bicycling, and walking safety throughout the region. So I want to invite you to say a few words, and then we'll take a picture with the whole board.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning. I really want to let you know how honored I am for recognizing something that's really just a part of my DNA. So whether I got a recognition or not, I would be out there still doing what I do. But it's icing on the cake to be recognized for the things that you really love. I know you all will agree with that because you're sitting in seats that require that you have to love what you're doing. So I really appreciate that. As we look at our communities, one of the things that we dedicate ourselves to is to encourage residents to understand that ordinary people can make extraordinary differences. And that's what we do all the time. We're going to be continuing our conversation about Department of Transportation as we look at the implementations of plans right now. They're impacting my community even more, again. So over the next couple months, we're going to be very much communicating with you and explaining to you those impacts in our Tampa Heights and surrounding neighborhoods. So thank you for the recognition, but look forward to us having some real conversations again over the upcoming months. Thank you so much.
Let's take a look over here with the award to take it. Yeah, but just be careful. We're going to come in the middle here for a big group picture, if everyone wants to sort of gather around. We were.
Stand behind them.
I would, yeah, we can. We were gonna. Okay, yeah.
You in the front, you in the back.
Here, here, just stagger back a little.
May I stand beside you?
Sure.
There you go. I don't want to block them. Vision Zero.
All right, that's good. Thank you. Congratulations, Lena. Good to see you. We're working on it.
So, I know I'm in 2003, but I think Mr. Chairman, she said she's been doing this since the 80s.
Ah. All right, I just want to remind everyone to please turn your microphones on when it's time to speak, which
Mr.
I did
Chairman,
not.
while you were doing the
which
Pledge
I
of
did not
Allegiance,
do.
I was thinking about that today is 70 years since Pearl Harbor Day. Excuse me, 80? 60, 80 years. My math is bad. 80 years.
We will, if anyone wants to address that at the end of the meeting, we'll certainly have some time to talk about it. In the meantime, though, we do have public comment today. We have 3 minutes per speaker. We have, I believe, 6 people signed up for public comment. So let me start off with Rick Fernandez, followed by Bill Roberts and Andrea Martin. Rick, are
Good
you
morning,
there?
Chair.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is Rick Fernandez. Mic check?
Yep, you're good. We can hear you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Chair and Board. And Lena, congratulations. I don't know if you can hear me, but good on you. My name is Rick Fernandez, 2906 North Elmore Avenue in Tampa Heights. I serve as Vice Chair of your CAC, although I'm here to speak individually. My written comments are incorporated by reference. In May, this board approved FDOT's plan for operational and safety improvements of the downtown interchange. Part of that plan was to add a lane to the flyover ramp from southbound 275 to eastbound I-4. I understood, and dare say my neighborhood, Tampa Heights, understood, that this lane addition could be accomplished and would be accomplished within the existing infrastructure and within the existing interstate footprint. It wasn't until November 17 of this year, less than 3 weeks ago, that I literally accidentally learned that this is not the case. FDOT plans a major construction project, new infrastructure to accommodate the lane addition and outward movement of the barrier wall, 12 feet more or less is the best information I have so far, to accommodate the new infrastructure. That intrusion would track along the highway's arc from just south of Florabraska to Scott Street along the eastern border of Tampa Heights. We in Tampa Heights did not see this coming. I did not see it coming, and believe me, I would have noticed. The construction and wall movement that's envisioned here would break ground a block south of my front door on Elmore Avenue. I do not believe you folks knew this is what DOT intended when you approved the plans in May. I don't want to believe that you would throw us under the bus this way. There has not been a meeting of the minds between DOT and this board or my neighborhood. And why? Because DOT has either intentionally or negligently withheld or obscured material facts. And your action in May is suspect and subject to criticism as a result. So now that we all know, and you are clearly all accountable, here is my ask. Bring DOT back for a full vetting of the DTI plans. We in Tampa Heights have asked for details, but they are few. There are many more questions than answers. Start and finish dates, road closures, vibration damage analysis, work schedules, property value impacts and constructive takings, mitigation plans, actual notice to property owners. Please ask the hard questions and stop or revise the plan as called for. The people many of you were elected to represent are counting on you to have our backs. And this is only the first step in that process. Thank you very much.
Okay, Bill Roberts?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the TPO board. Bill Roberts at 14711 Clarendon Drive. I wanted to come to you this morning as we close this year, really to thank you for your efforts this past year in working on the TPO transportation issues for Hillsborough County. Like many of you, I've been around a number of years. In fact, I remember the days when I would leave my office in Al Austin's first building on West Shore, drive a few short blocks to Drew Field, hop on a Delta jet. My, how things have changed. But that should serve as a reminder for you on this board that we're planning for the future. We're planning and deliberating actions that will affect generations to come. I want you to know I appreciate your efforts. I want you to know that the time you take to receive citizen input is greatly appreciated, and I wish you all the very best for the holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Next, we have Andrea Martin, and she'll be followed by Mauricio Rosas and Adam Fritz.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Martin is not signed into the meeting yet.
Okay, we'll return back for one more try with her at the end. Mr. Rosas, I see you're present. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm just making sure this thing is working.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, good. Good morning, members. I'm Mauricio Rosas. I want to talk about land use, sidewalks, communication policy change. First of all, land use. It is no surprise that we cannot have a well-functioning public mass transit system when this organization in its different capacities fails to put together and act on urban design grids. Secretary Gwen has repeatedly said FDOT is willing to partner on land use with this body to help in urban planning for a more robust transit system. However, if we don't change our current behavior, we will be having these meetings over and over and over without much accomplishment in reducing the number of cars on the road. Sidewalks. Recently, federal grant money was used in South County to widen roads, yet we did not prioritize state law that says we must have sidewalks within a 2-mile radius of all schools. Why is this mandate being neglected? Why are kids still walking on the road on dangerous intersections near I-275? That's just not acceptable. Lastly, let me talk about policy change communication. While this board makes many decisions based on slide presentations and innuendos of projects that are coming forward, we are not seeing the whole picture before a vote is determined. What I mean by that is how many in this body knew that part of the barrier wall in Tampa Heights area would be moved before voting for the project. And if you voted on the project knowing there would be some expansion within the right-of-way versus the existing structure, the least FDOT can do is notify the residents along the area at least 30 days before construction begins. We have to let people know before they buy or sell their houses what is going on. So I'm asking this board to please be more detail-oriented. We cannot continue to allow this expansion without doing anything to reduce the number of cars on the road. And that's the thing that I want you guys to really, really own up to. Reducing the number of cars on the road, communication, and sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Adam Fritz and then Michael Spokas.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, TPO board. My name is Adam Fritz. I live in Tampa Heights on Central Avenue. Thank you so much for allowing me to make some comments this morning on the operation improvements for the downtown interchange plan. Given the history of FDOT and its past TBX plan, I feel it is imperative for FDOT to be as transparent and honest with the community as possible. Extra care should be paramount for FDOT in any project that comes in contact with Tampa's historic neighborhoods. Because this is a design-build project, that transparency has not been forthcoming. The message has been, we will not be outside of our footprint. That to most people is welcome news. However, it has not now been discovered that this may be true for FDOT definitions, but certainly not what will happen in reality of this proposed design build. As FDOT has told our neighborhood that they will take a minimum of 12 feet to the west side of 275 in this current design build structure into our neighborhood. This may be more. There may be other things we don't know. There are many unknown facts. This design build is the path of least resistance and will not deliver a sure thing, which is troubling for a historic neighborhood. There needs to be more transparency. Personally, my home is on Central Avenue. It is an historic home, the original home for the Robles family, built in 1876. For 12 years now, we have worked tirelessly in our neighborhood and in our own home to make it better and a contribution to the neighborhood. The back of our house faces Elmore Avenue within 200 feet of the existing 275 structural well. My house is not listed on the FDOT structures of concern, nor are other historic homes on Central Avenue. This illustrates that FDOT has not done an adequate job of understanding context of a sensitive area and all of the potential impacts. Impacts such as decreased property value, impacts to the tax base of a revitalizing neighborhood to the city of Tampa, damages to the property, especially historic structurally due to construction vibration. What and when is testing and monitoring? Where are the mitigation plans? We're asking for more time to understand the plan, its economic impact to the neighborhood and the city of Tampa overall, and for the opportunity to come up with more creative solutions that would stay inside their built footprint. Please pause this project so we can get a complete understanding of this detrimental impacts before it is too late. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Michael Spokus?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Spokus. I live in the Tampa Heights Historic District at 210 East Ross Avenue. I'm commenting on the historic 4-unit apartment building at 1902 Lamar that FDOT wants to demolish. There's no reason this property needs to be torn down. It's not in the footprint of the interstate. It's a standing historic structure in the historic district. It's not beyond repair. Anything is salvageable. It just takes someone who wants to save it. If the property cannot currently be moved, I propose FDOT let the property stand in place and allow THCA or another private property to rehab the property at its current location, just like the Tampa Heights Community Center on Palm and Lamar. Then the units could be rented as affordable housing to qualified families. This could solve 3 problems. 1, saving a historic structure. 2, help with the affordable housing issue in Tampa. And 3, keeping more debris out of our landfills. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me just return and see if Andrea Martin is here.
Ms. Martin has not joined the meeting.
Okay, then to my records, that's the end of our public comment. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to recognize we have a new member, Cody Powell, who was appointed by the Planning Commission, and he is asked to be recognized in advance of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your time. Can you hear me okay? Picking me up. I just wanted to take this moment to speak with you all. At our last meeting, there was a great presentation.
I don't think we can hear you on the microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it might actually be easier for you if you just speak from your seat.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. There you go.
All right, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. All right, again, thank you all for letting me to speak. At the last meeting that we had, there was a great presentation at the end of the agenda regarding the FLIP and FLIP Junior program. Unfortunately, there were a few board members and elected officials that were left at the end of our last meeting that got to hear that presentation. I would like to encourage everyone to go and rewatch that presentation when you have a moment. Those programs are fantastic, and they bring the community's children and youth into our world. I think it's critical for elected officials to engage with our children and to inspire them to engage with local government. Local government is the only form of government, in my opinion, that can directly and quickly impact a local community. The opening slide in last month's presentation opened with a quote from Maya Angelou that said, "Each child belongs to all of us, and they will bring us a tomorrow in direct relation to the responsibility we have shown them." So if you haven't had a chance to participate in one of the FLIP or FLIP Junior programs, I would really encourage you to take the time to do that. I've had the opportunity to participate in some of them, and they are fantastic. Seeing the kids, getting excited about being in local government is truly something special. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and welcome to the TPO. Right now, we're going to move on to committee reports and advance comments. Davita Franklin, TPO staff, is going to speak. I do just want to make the comment that we are going to hear from FDOT at our next meeting with an update related to the issues that have been raised regarding the downtown interchange. So that is already scheduled for our next meeting. If any board members want to talk about that, why don't we just do that after we've heard our staff report, if that's all right. So with that, let me move on to Davita Franklin from the TPO staff for committee reports and advance comments.
Good morning. Here's your summary of committee reports and public comments. Committees did not have any action items pertaining to action items in today's agenda, but there were items pertaining to the consent agenda. So the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee reviewed a memorandum of agreement for bike and pedestrian counters with the Florida Department of Transportation. The committee heard a report on 2 resurfacing projects on Dale Mabry and Park Road. And this was a follow-up on a motion that the board made last month about the Florida Department of Transportation's work program, asking that the department brief committees about what's included in the resurfacing projects. The Livable Roadways Committee previewed the Brightline Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement, and they drafted a letter about the historic resources that will be affected. For status reports, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee and Livable Roadways Committee both heard reports on the Florida Department of Transportation 56th Street and 50th Street Corridor Planning Study and the Tampa Downtown Partnership Bicycle and Pedestrian Counts. The Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee heard reports on the City of Tampa Neighborhood Commercial District plans and the U.S. Bicycle Route 15 through Hillsborough County. For your summary of public comments, we didn't receive any emails or social media posts pertaining to today's action items. However, we did receive comments about the Transportation Improvement Program amendment that was funded, that funded the downtown interchange in October. And this concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we move on, I've just been informed that Secretary Gwynn is on the line and would like to speak to the TPO board related to some of this morning's public comment, and then I will look around if commissioners or council members or other TPO board members want to ask questions or make comments. Secretary Gwynn, are you there?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for joining us this morning.
No, thank you. And we will be and plan to come to the board next month to talk about certain topics. But based on some of the public comments today, some of the comments that have been circulating through various forums, I did want to provide some information perhaps for the board to consider before we have our discussions next month, to put things in perspective and hopefully be able to have a more informed discussion. So if it's all right with you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to talk briefly about 3 issues that I know have been brought up as topics of discussion. The first topic has to do with the downtown interchange and the fact that there are going to be some areas where the walls are going to be moved. And I started writing down some of the comments I heard in public comment: dishonest, deceptive, non-collaborative. First of all, I want to say that over the last 5 years, I have tasked my team to be completely transparent, to be collaborative, and to make sure that we are open and honest with the public about everything that we do. I also want to say, just because people say things over and over and over and over and over again, it doesn't mean that it's true. We have never, ever shown anything to the public that did not show that we were going to be moving the walls. They were called out by graphics in our public meetings. I'm sorry that if some folks feel like they did not understand it, but when it has a big arrow that shows wall moved, we said not that we were going to stay within the existing footprint. There's no way you can add lanes within the existing footprint of that interchange. What we said is we would not impact the right-of-way. 5 years ago, I committed to this board and I committed to the community that we would take a very hard look at the concepts that were being considered, what we used to call concepts in alternatives A and B. And then we developed C and D, which were not as impactful, but certainly still had impacts to the community. And we finally came up with what we thought was a very good collaborative solution, which was to take out the express lanes north of I-4 and to not take any additional right-of-way in Tampa Heights, but to try to utilize the existing right-of-way as as well as we could to address the safety and operational concerns within the interchange. To be able to address those 1,000 crashes a year that occur that we're trying to find ways to mitigate. Now, I know it isn't perfect and not everybody likes it, but I can tell you that in addition to just being able to stay within our right-of-way, we made the commitment to do what we could to help to mitigate some of this in the Tampa Heights community. We have invested millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars in infrastructure improvements into Tampa Heights. We went ahead and submitted and supported a RAISE grant. The DOT submitted a RAISE grant for $25 million for the federal government to provide improvements within the Tampa Heights area. And when the federal government came back and said, we can't give you the 25 million, we'll give you 18 million, we stepped up and provided the other 7 million. We fought, and along with you, were able to find $68 million to help support the expansion of the streetcar into Tampa Heights. That's the state match, before we even had the local match, which is an extremely hard argument to make. We did that. We made the streetcar free to help make the federal funding more attractive by increasing the ridership. We have done everything we can. And although I don't really care if somebody wants to call me out and call me the dishonest and all those things, but I don't feel it's fair to my team. My team has done everything they can to try to be as collaborative and to try to be as transparent as possible. So in regards to the downtown interchange, we are only working within our existing right-of-way, and we worked hard to keep as much of a buffer as we can. There is nowhere where it's going to be less than 15 feet between the existing roadway and our walls. There's room in there to put landscaping. Is it perfect? No, but nothing was going to be perfect. We found a good compromise. So in terms of the downtown interchange, we've already shortlisted teams to move forward. We will continue to work closely with the community, but I do find that the comments that were made were just not true. I don't believe we're the ones being dishonest in terms of what was shown to the public. We were very transparent. The second topic I wanted to address, we're going to come next month with very good alternatives, we feel, to look at the Robles Park noise wall situation. The truth is, there is no opportunity for federal or state funds for the noise wall. And the reason is because it does not meet the federal requirements for a noise wall. Beth knows this. We've talked to FHWA. She cannot use her federal funds. We cannot use our federal funds. And because the state funds follow the federal funds requirements, we can't use the state funds for that. The truth is, and I would not recommend this, but the truth is the only funds that could be used in that area to build an actual noise wall are local funds. We wouldn't stand in your way if you wanted to do that, but I don't necessarily recommend you do. We're going to bring to you options that we can do with state funds. There's an opportunity to look at what you would call a privacy wall, a wall that's not necessarily as tall as a noise wall, but it provides some of the benefits and it provides some of the visual barrier. We're going to bring you options related to landscaping opportunities and trellis walls and things that we think could be a good solution. But there's just no opportunity. There is no way for us to be able to put state or federal funds. This is a policy that's been used throughout the entire state. There's not precedent for us to be able to do a noise wall where it's not meet the federal requirements, and we don't make the federal requirements. So I know that that's frustrating. I know that sometimes it doesn't make sense, but that's the rules we have to follow. We'll give you alternatives next month, so I hope you'll think about that when we talk about it, that the noise wall, unless the locals want to pay for it, really isn't an option. So let's find what we can do and find the best solution that we can. The last thing is the home that is scheduled for demolition. This home is not being demolished because of the need of the SEIS. That's not the purpose for it to be demolished. This structure is currently very structurally unsound, and it's been a public nuisance. We've had about the number of police calls that have been called out there. We have tried very hard to find someone, an investor, that would move the home, rehab the home, and we just have not been able to find anybody that said that it's even feasible to do. There's many problems I could go into. There's black mold. I wanted to take a tour of the building and take a look at it myself, and they tell me I can't even go up to the second floor because it's so structurally unsound that you can't go up to the second floor. I will also tell you that we bought this property in 2015 from a willing seller, and the structural and inspections that were done at that time shown that these conditions existed at that time. It may have gotten worse since then, but at that time, it was not structurally sound. It also is not, it's a stucco on wood type of a structure. And what we've been told is if you try to move that, chances are it could collapse on itself because the stucco won't stay attached to it. You almost have to remove the stucco, which makes it unstable. There's just a lot of problems with that house. I did give the local association 60 days to try to find their own. We've had years to look for somebody and haven't found somebody. If they can find somebody that will move it, then we're more than willing to do that. But I just don't think we will. And to have it just sit there and continue to deteriorate, I don't think is a good solution. So unless we can find someone that wants to rehab and move that home, we're more than willing to work with them if they want to, but I just don't think we're going to. I hate that we have to tear down any structure. But when it becomes a public nuisance, when it's a structural and safety hazard, we have to be responsible and we have to take action. So that is the plan, unless we hear something different from the local community association as far as someone that wants to try to take that on. Next month, we can talk in more detail, but I do just want to say, I hope we don't fall back into the same type of dialogue we had years ago, where it became very negative, it became very, very contentious. I can tell you, I honestly have tried very hard, and I think my staff have too, to do everything we can to be collaborative in the community. I know it's not perfect, and I know a lot of people don't like what we're doing, but we have to find a way to compromise. It's not always going to be our way or their way. We have to find a way to compromise, and I do think we've made so much progress. I don't think we want to rehash everything that's been already finally decided over the last few years over and over and over again. I think we need to move forward. We'll continue to look for ways to work with the community to improve things, but I just don't want to see where we end up getting back where we were 5 years ago. I don't think that will do anybody any good. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to allow us to speak.
Secretary Gwynn, thank you very much for those comments, and also I know all of us appreciate the idea that we can get into this in more detail in January. Knowing that we have a full agenda this morning, are there any commissioners that have any comments they would like to make? Yes. Yes, Commissioner Overman?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Secretary Gwynn, for answering a lot of the questions that I think were addressed not only locally on social media, but also in today's public comment. There is an opportunity, because I do know that they're already reconfiguring the underpasses, the roads on Chelsea and Osborne and Hillsborough, and that work has already begun. So I'm very glad that you were able to show up today, because between now and a month from now, much of that work would have already been done. There is an opportunity, I think, for FDOT to work with the community on the underpass design and the artwork associated with it, and I'm getting wind from various folks in the community that partnership hasn't really evolved in a more positive way. So I would ask, and not to say it's negative, it just hasn't moved in a positive way. Seminole Heights and Tampa Heights is a very, very artistic community. There's a lot of folks that are very involved in art. And we know that other overpass and underpass designs have collaborated with the communities of which they were changed. So I would ask that that effort be made, and to give us in their report next month some idea of how that was done, and actually work with clarifying the noise walls and the alternatives for the walls over Robles Park. We recognize that is, but having a dollar amount that we're to shoot for, given the various different alternatives that you will bring back to us, will help the community make a realistic decision on what they really would like to see in that effort. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Kemp, and then I'll.
And I'll be fast. I just, on that property, and I've heard a lot about it, 1902 Lamar, I think, is the address. And my question was, because I've dealt with this in Seminole Heights some 20 years ago with the widening of Hillsborough Avenue, and properties were kept empty for years and said that they were, it was unfeasible to do anything with them, and we ended up, actually, one of them was Dale Mabry's home, which is now on Suwannee Avenue, moved. Another one was a historic home in the neighborhood, Dr. Stone's, and was cut in half. And so my question is this, if that, in that property, I don't know the condition of it, I'm no expert, but I'm just wondering if it is impossible to move but could be restored on site, is there any possibility that land could be made available with the property on it for someone to restore that? And you don't have to answer that now, but it's just kind of the first question that came to mind for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to ask Secretary Gwynn if he would consider holding another community engagement meeting with the residents. It appears that the residents are saying that they didn't know what was going on or were not informed. And if you can hold another meeting just to clarify everything that you said this morning with the residents and be prepared to come to our meeting next month. Thank you.
Councilman.
If I could answer the question, sir?
Yes, Secretary Gwynn.
So we would be glad to continue to work with the community. We had a recent meeting where our folks came out and talked. We would hope that the organizers of the meeting, from both our side and from the community side, would try to promote this as an opportunity for constructive conversation, as opposed to, we don't mind, we know we're going to show up sometimes and just people just want to go out and blast on us, but we usually don't, nothing gets resolved with that. What we would like to do is sit down and have a conversation and talk, and perhaps a way to start that is with the leaders of the community, so we can talk about some of the things and then try to expand that out. But we're certainly open to having conversations. And, we talked about the artwork. Quite honestly, the city is the one that leads the artwork. We provide the opportunity. The city is the one doing the public outreach for the artwork and all of that. So we'd be glad to work with the city on that, but that was the role the city wanted and took. And as far as the home, we can look at all options. We've asked the community association, come back with us within 60 days of what, if they can find somebody who has a plan, we'll look at it. We'll look at it. But I can tell you that property's in bad shape. And if we can't find somebody that wants to take it on, then we're going to have to tear it down.
Commissioner Myers, did you want to follow up with the Secretary?
Yes, if Secretary Gwynn, if you can let me know when that meeting would be held, I would like to attend just to be in support as a commissioner, and I'm pretty sure there might be other commissioners this board might want to attend that meeting. I do agree we cannot accomplish anything when we're just showing up to go back and forth, but we can accomplish great things when we come together and discuss it in unity. Thanks so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mentioned earlier it's the, thank you, Guido, 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, but Mr. Secretary, I agree with you. I hope that we don't head toward another war on these issues. I think that Secretary Gwynn, that you've, over the last 5 years, you and your team have done a really good job of changing the attitudes and the relationship between the community and the district and the DOT, and I commend you for that. I think you've come a long way. Now, with that, I will say, I do recall when I first came on the MPO, perhaps a year or two ago, I recall a conversation that said, when we do the interchange, we're not going to be going beyond the existing footprint. But I think what the problem is what is the definition of the footprint? And I think what you're saying, Mr. Secretary, is the right-of-way footprint. The right-of-way footprint is not changing, but the actual highway footprint in terms of the wall and everything has to go out. So I think that that's probably just a miscommunication. I don't believe it was intentional. I'm sure that the drawings probably showed it and that people just missed it. And that's unfortunate. But that's miscommunication. I'm sure that can be resolved with additional communication, as Commissioner Myers has suggested, and that we can all move forward and avoid going to war again, because I don't think that's helpful. So, thank you, sir.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. You know, I think it's imperative of our generation, all of us here, when it comes to historic preservation, to really pay attention to it, because if you look at the last half century, all we've done is torn down. And I remember having a conversation with a gentleman, not going to name him, he's still alive, he's an older man, and I said, well, you know, you were there during all of this. What about the Art Deco? What about the architecture of, you know, of the era, the historic preservation? And he laughed and he said, there was no historic preservation. It was an old building and we tore it down. And we tore it down for parking lots, we tore it down for highways, whatever it was, but we tore down so much of our history. On my desk at City Hall, I have a Life magazine from 1963. And there's an article there that headlines with, you know, erasing our history. And all these beautiful structures from the late 1800s, early 1900s, this is 1963, as modern as 1930. So 30 years prior when this article was written, and it was old, and it was demolished for something new. When I walked here today from City Hall, I noticed all the parking lots. And those parking lots used to be either hotels, used to be other structures that were not wooden structures, that were delicate, that you figure, well, the humidity and the tropical climate. They were brick structures made to last forever or for centuries, made by hands of skilled workers that were proud of what they built because they figured, what I built today with my hands, future generations will enjoy. Getting back to this property here, and I appreciate all the comments of the Secretary, who has always been wonderful, always been open in communication. I won't criticize that, but it's up to us to preserve what we can. When I first got elected in 2015, and I'll finish here, I asked the mayor at the time, what about the Jackson House? First thing out of my mouth. And there did not seem to be an interest. And at the time, the Jackson House was in much better shape than it is now. I have photos from a few months before getting elected, completely different quality of the home. Now we look at it, and it's wooden trusses inside holding up the structure, and we may have waited too long. I hope that it is restorable, but it's demolition by neglect. This structure here is a solid structure. The inside, maybe the floor is wooden and it's weak, but the exterior structure is block or brick that is meant to last a long time. I hope that in this climate, where so many people are making money on real estate, people are making a fortune, we see the real estate and property values, that someone steps up and says, I want to do something with the structure, I can restore it, maybe make it into affordable housing units, micro apartments, something. If you go by Burns Steakhouse, there are what used to be apartments right there on Howard Avenue, and they're completely gutted out. The Burns organization purchased these, and they're redoing them. They gutted out the interior, but they saved the exterior. So when they're finished, you'll see this Mediterranean-style design from, I believe, the 1920s, but it's modernized inside where it's usable, and it remains. It's not being torn down for parking or for a parking garage. They're making good use of it. So again, if anybody is listening and has the money and is willing to take on this project, which is not big, the structure is not big, I hope that they do so. I don't know about moving it, but maybe FDOT will have a change of heart and perhaps sell the property without having to move it or demolish it and let somebody else handle it in the name of historic preservation. Thank you.
So I think this morning's,
Mr. Chair?
oh, excuse me, yeah. Secretary Gwynn, is that you?
Yes, sir. If I could just clarify one thing, because this is a common misconception that we hear. The structure itself is wooden with stucco on the outside of the wood. It is not a block or a masonry building. That's part of the problem. If it was, it might be easier to move. The problem is that when you have stucco on the outside of wood, if you try to do anything to move it, the stucco basically falls off. And then the wood becomes unstable and the home moves. In fact, most movers said they wouldn't move it without removing the stucco. So if there is someone looking to invest in it, they might want to check it out and look, because it's actually a wooden structure with a stucco exterior. Thank you.
Commissioner Kemp, you had a follow-up.
And I didn't mean to speak again, but I just think it's important for clarification because I feel it's fundamental. And I was always honestly abundantly aware of the fact that they talked not about footprint, but about the right-of-way that FDOT owned. So I never believed that it was going to be in the current footprint because I think, as the secretary says, how could that be? So they talked about the right-of-way. And I think that that has been my focus actually for 3 or 4 years as I looked at this. And so I think it's really important to be recognizing that because I'll say that that is one of the things that I was talking about when we're talking about 275 North is they always said, well, we're not taking down homes, but you know, it's in the right-of-way we had. You cannot add 15-foot lanes on either side of 275 North, 30 feet more of asphalt and pavement all the way up and not widen the footprint. How would you do that? I just think that that has always been fundamental to the conversation. So I just don't want any misconceptions about our information about, because I thought that was really basic to the conversation that we've been having all along to this and really fundamental. So I just wanted to clarify that point so that it wasn't lost.
Well, thank you for that, Commissioner Kemp, and I think that underscores what Councilman Dingfelder was saying earlier. You know, I think the comments by this board show that everyone is being very thoughtful about these issues as they're being raised. I think it's very, very good news that Secretary Gwynn seems amenable to Commissioner Meyer's suggestion to have a community meeting and create some dialogue. I just want to say that people have mentioned Pearl Harbor today. I have been struck by the coverage of the passing of Senator Bob Dole. If you read about or saw any of the coverage, it was really about his really unique ability over the years to bring people together across party lines and across divides in order to get things actually done. And one of the things that was raised was that he worked across party lines with Senator Moynihan to save Social Security in the 1980s. You know, the spirit of collaboration and cooperation that I think all of us want to see here, you know, harkens back to a time like that when people got together and not everybody can get everything they want, but we can find ways to find common ground and find compromise. I hope when the community meets, that will take place, and more than anything, I think it's really good that we now know that at our next meeting we're going to get into the details of these projects once again to make sure that there are no misunderstandings. But I also think that Commissioner Kemp's point was a very important one, that the issue of right-of-way versus current envelope was very, very significant in terms of coming to these solutions to begin with. Remember, the original proposals involved huge takings throughout the community that are no longer on the table. So with that, we'll all learn more, and we will come back together again on this item after the new year. With that, we are going to move on to our consent agenda. The first item is committee appointments. And the second is a memo of agreement with FDOT for bike ped counters. I don't believe there's any presentation on these items, so can we entertain a motion for
You need
passage
a
of
motion
consent?
to approve? Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Overman, seconded by Commissioner Myers, in a close call with Commissioner Kemp. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on now to our action items. We have some elections to have and also to discuss our calendar. I'm going to turn it over now to Cameron Clark, our TPO attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can everyone hear me okay? Sorry, I haven't had the podium this far away before I feel like I'm speaking to you from the end of a bowling alley a little bit. We have a few, actually 2 officers to appoint this morning, and also there will be some committee appointments. I'm going to ask for nominations for TPO Chair and TPO Vice Chair. Nominations can be made until there are no more nominations, and then we'll take votes on the nominations in the order that they were received. Seconds are not required for nominations. Following that, we'll go through the committee appointments. So to start, I would like to ask for nominations for TPO Chair. Do I have any nominations? Okay. Commissioner Kemp nominates Commissioner Cohen. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Sorry, Commissioner Myers?
I'd like to close the nomination on the said name.
Very well. Seeing no other nominations, I don't think that requires a second, Commissioner. So Commissioner Cohen is TPO Chair. Congratulations, Commissioner.
Thank you. And I'll just say thank you very much and remind everyone that I believe under our term limits provision, this will be my last term as chair of the TPO, but I appreciate that this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next, are there any nominations for TPO Vice Chair?
Nominate Commissioner Kemp.
Commissioner Kemp is nominated. Are there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, Commissioner Kemp is TPO Vice Chair. Congratulations, Commissioner. Next on our list, we have Policy Committee. Presently, there are 5 members of Policy Committee. I generally recommend an odd number just because it's easier to achieve quorum. Mr. Chair, would you like me to go through the list or just want to retain?
Well, I'd like to ask everyone to consider serving on the Policy Committee because I know that Mr. Wagner is a member and he is retiring in a month or two. And we are going to, he's a very reliable person for a quorum. So we're going to make sure that we need to replace him with someone.
Okay, Mr. Chair, yes. So current membership is Commissioner Kemp, Councilman Maniscalco, Commissioner Smith, Director Wagner, and Commissioner Cohen. Alternates are Commissioner Overman, Director Anderson, and Mr. Klug, who is the backup for Mr. Anderson. So seeing that, it would be advisable to have one more regular member appointed. And if that member is a current alternate, we just want one more alternate. Are there anyone who'd like to serve on that committee?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to a regular member if that permits someone else who, because I'm here anyway, but I'll move to a regular policy committee member if that's possible, and then ask for someone to take my place as an alternate. Is that how that works?
That sounds good. Does anyone want to volunteer as an alternate? I'm sorry. So I see Commissioner Myers and Councilman Dingfelder. Commissioner Myers, go ahead.
Well, they could both be, I think.
Okay.
I'll defer to Commissioner Myers as well.
So Commissioner Myers put you as an alternate? Okay. Okay,
Thank
so
you,
our
everybody.
membership will be Commissioner Kemp, Councilman Maniscalco, Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Overman, and Commissioner Cohen, with alternates as Commissioner Myers and Director Anderson, Mr. Klug. Any objections to that committee? Seeing none, thank you. Going forward, next is the TMA Leadership Group. Current members are Councilman Dingfelder, Commissioner Owen, and Commissioner Kemp. Your backups are Director Anderson and Director Lopano. I have a note that Councilman Dingfelder, you did not wish to continue to serve on that leadership group, and so I also have a note that Councilman Citro would like to do so. Councilman Citro, can you confirm that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Seeing that, is there any objection to those appointments? Okay, seeing none, that's the TMA Leadership Group. Next, members, I have the Transportation Disadvantaged Coordinating Board Chair. Presently is Commissioner Smith, who did not wish to continue in that capacity, and I have a note that Commissioner Myers would like to serve. Is that correct, Commissioner? Yes. Okay, so Commissioner Myers is appointed with no objections. Next, the Liberal Roadways Committee Chair is currently Councilman Citro, who wishes to continue in that capacity. Is that correct, Councilman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing,
okay,
yes,
sorry.
Please.
Seeing no objections, Councilman Citro is the LRC Chair. And then finally, I have for the MPO Advisory Council alternate, since the MPO Chair is automatically the appointee to that council, the alternate is presently Director Anderson or Mr. Klug. And any objections to that going forward? Okay, seeing no objections, those are your appointments for your committees. Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. We're going to discuss the calendar, I think, very briefly, Ms. Alden.
Just briefly, it is in your agenda packet, and we will be sending out appointments to all of you, so you'll have those dates on your calendars. The board is proposed to continue to meet on the second Wednesday of the month. Typically, there have been only a couple of spots where we vary from that based on the schedule of the county commission. But, continuing with our practice of second Wednesday of the month, 10 a.m. for the board and 8:30 a.m. for the policy committee.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to status reports now. Due to a pending zoning matter that is going to be heard by the Tampa City Council, Matter A is going to be deferred to the end of our meeting so that the council members are not going to participate in that. So we're going to move on to status report B, which is the Transportation Disadvantaged Program update. Joshua Barber from TPO staff will take us through that.
Hello, TPO board. Can you all hear me well? Cool.
Yes.
Joshua Barber, TPO staff here, and I'm here to provide an update on the Transportation Disadvantage Program over the last year. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of a program introduction. The Florida State Legislature established the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged in 1989 to fund and oversee the expansion of transportation services for the transportation disadvantaged. These are individuals who have a disability, are low income, elderly, are children at risk, and have no other means of accessing transportation. The program provides transportation of last resort. The legislation also established a Transportation Disadvantaged Trust Fund funded from vehicle registration fees and gasoline sales taxes to support the statewide program. Since then, the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged has distributed funds to each county's community transportation coordinator to provide and coordinate all transportation services for the transportation disadvantaged. The Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners has been the designated CTC for Hillsborough County since 1990, with Sunshine Line as the operator. The Sunshine Line primarily provides trips through the distribution of HART bus passes to individuals who are both near a HART fixed route and are able to ride the bus, and also provides service through providing door-to-door transportation for those outside of HART's service area or who are physically unable to use the fixed route system. And the Sunshine Line develops eligibility requirements in accordance with state regulations and local service needs. In addition, the TPO is provided with an annual planning grant to assist with local planning efforts, which includes staffing the Transportation Disadvantaged Coordinating Board and a host of other annual planning and evaluation products that support an effective and responsive local TD program, which I'll review a bit more in detail today. Next slide, please. One of our major annual products is the Community Transportation Coordinator Evaluation. The evaluation for the 1920 fiscal year was adopted in February of 2021. Our evaluation process typically consists of 3 parts. First part is a performance evaluation based upon local standards in our Transportation Disadvantaged Service Plan that covers areas such as safety, on-time performance, cost per trip, complaints, and other standard transit performance areas. The second part includes a survey of both the bus pass customers and door-to-door customers for service perceptions and needs. And the third part is a workbook provided by the Commission that covers more regulatory areas such as insurance and other aspects. And of course, the CTC evaluation for this fiscal year covered the significant impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on service provision. The closing of aging services sites, which were approximately 40% of all door-to-door trips the Sunshine Line conducted. The suspension of group trips as a result of social distancing, and the canceling of non-essential medical trips for a brief period, among other challenges, had significant impacts on the system overall. But the Sunshine Line identified innovative ways to respond both internally and for Hillsborough County as a whole. This included starting meal delivery services for aging services clients 4 days a week, providing transportation home from quarantine sites and isolation sites. When the vaccine became available, they provided transportation to vaccine sites, as well as providing additional training on disability sensitivity and other areas for drivers and staff during downtimes when service was reduced. And I want to emphasize that at no point did Sunshine Line stop providing essential services, and that their innovative and responsiveness is certainly something we can be proud of as a community, especially the drivers who continue to show up every day to provide face-to-face services. I provided a few quotes here from our last evaluation from Sunshine Line customers. Next slide, please. An annual public workshop is also required to be held every year in accordance with our planning grant from the Commission. With the rapid rise of shared mobility and other technology-based transportation options, including the TD Tampa Bay program funded through the CTD Service and Innovation Grant, staff and leadership thought it would be prudent to facilitate a discussion on these technologies and options with our local coordinating board. Staff provided an overview of mobility as a service and shared mobility options and projects occurring in Hillsborough County. We provided an overview of how these technologies are being used to supplement services for transportation disadvantaged individuals in other areas around the country and locally as well. We also provided an overview of challenges and concerns regarding these technologies, including accessibility for those with disabilities, insurance requirements, performance monitoring and tracking, information transparency, issues of liability, background checks, vehicle maintenance, and other areas. And guidance was provided about how our local coordinating board can guide and plan for these technologies as they become increasingly integrated into the transportation environment, and ensure that these technologies continue to meet public goals and public safety requirements as well. Next slide, please. Every 5 years, the local coordinating board and the TPO board recommend a community transportation coordinator to the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged. The TPO board recommended that the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners continue as the CTC for the county for the next 5 years earlier this year. No competitive procurement process was required for this recommendation, as the BOCC is a government entity. The BOCC was redesignated as the CTC effective July 1st, 2021. And needless to say, we're incredibly happy for the county to continue in this capacity as they have the last 30 years. Consistency and continuity of services are absolutely essential for the people who depend upon us to meet their daily needs. And the image here on the right shows Sunshine Line buses at a vaccination event in Plant City and their continued responsiveness to community needs. Next slide, please. Within 180 days of the designation of the CTC, the local coordinating board is required to adopt a brand new transportation disadvantaged service plan, which occurred at the October coordinating board meeting. The TDSP is a tactical plan developed jointly by the TPO, the Sunshine Line, the coordinating board, and the public. It provides a consistency review of other plans, a description of our service area, including major employment areas and trip generators, a demographic breakdown of the county, and an inventory of available transportation services as well. To help inform the planning effort, staff sent surveys to social service providers across Hillsborough County and received 29 responses from a variety of organizations, and over 20 of the agencies that responded served over 100 clients at any given time. This outreach methodology, where staff reached out to social service agencies, is in line with previous public involvement efforts, including the Coordination Contractors Roundtable, which was conducted in 2016 and 2018. After the survey, follow-up phone call interviews were conducted with 10 agencies to get a better idea of transportation gaps and needs across the county. Similar to years past, transportation remains a major challenge for individuals across the county, especially those that are transportation disadvantaged. Transportation for employment was one of the biggest needs. Concerns about HART service reliability and range were expressed. Low-income clients face challenges in regularly purchasing bus passes. And while many agencies can provide these passes, it is not always sustainable, especially after clients leave those services. Cross-county trips were still a major need, as identified for the past 10 years as well. In addition, staff heard from several agencies outside of the coordinated system and found that some were not fully aware of all the transportation options in the county that their clients could be eligible for. These efforts built upon previous public engagement to help identify needs for the transportation disadvantaged, which included an expanded fixed route public transit system, improved access to employment, and regional trips. Future projections also show an increasing TD population, which may be higher than expected as a result of people becoming disabled due to COVID-19, which must be planned for long range. The plan also identified major barriers to coordination. Naturally, the biggest barrier identified is lack of funding for the transportation network across Hillsborough County. This includes not only the public transit network, but also funding for non-auto transportation, especially the pedestrian and bicycle network. Other barriers include the low density development patterns, which necessitates vehicle ownership and usage, as well as a lack of awareness about transportation resources around the county that individuals may be eligible for. Some fresh objectives and strategies for the Sunshine Line and the local coordinating board were developed to provide direction in addressing these issues and for continuing to provide high quality service that clients expect from the Sunshine Line, and for broadly supporting a coordinated and effective transportation system that meets the needs of the transportation disadvantaged. Next slide, please. And so that's some of the major projects that we've wrapped up this year. Currently, we're working on the last fiscal year's evaluation. We're also working on an updated return on investment study. This was a study conducted statewide in the early 2000s by Florida State University that shows a significant return on investment from the TD program for every dollar invested. Staff did an update of this back in 2016. And we're looking at refreshing those numbers again to support the continued funding of the TD program. Every year, the CTD hosts a Transportation Disadvantaged Legislative Day, where we send members of our local coordinating board up to Tallahassee during the legislative session to advance TD needs. And our message from the local coordinating board will be on the agenda come January as well. The LCB also appointed members for a regional local coordinating board to address regional needs, which we're hoping to get kicked off sometime early next year. And the local coordinating board also established a subcommittee to explore the impacts of the overturned transportation surtax on the transportation disadvantage and to look towards future needs, which our Citizens Advisory Committee also joined in on, which will be kicking off sometime next year as well. Next slide, please. I did want to share some quotes that we've been getting from this year's CTC evaluation here. Some of these: Sunshine Line helped me greatly in becoming cancer-free from start of chemo to now and is still helping. Thank you. And my wife and I are quite pleased with your service and consider it a godsend. Since the city made the unilateral decision to cease all bus service to our area, thank you again. And with that, next slide. I'm happy to take any questions and comments about the program and future directions. And I do want to give a shout out to Commissioner Smith for all her service on the board over the past year. Her leadership is very much appreciated, and we're really looking forward to having Commissioner Myers in this upcoming year as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I am looking for hands. Commissioner Myers, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my honor to serve as chair, and thank you. Appreciate the support from everyone.
Thank you, and we thank Commissioner Smith for her service. I was also the chair of that board for a number of years. I know Councilman Vieira was too, and the services that are provided by Hillsborough County go very, very much appreciated by a lot of people in our community. So, Commissioner Myers, we wish you well on this assignment.
And Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
Mr. Smith.
if I-
Excuse me, Commissioner Smith. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Thank you. If I could just briefly also say it's been a pleasure and an honor to serve on that board, and the staff has been amazing. Mr. Barber has been really a passionate advocate for all the transportation disadvantage, the wide range that that includes, from economically disadvantaged to physically disadvantaged, and it's just been a wonderful, informative, and personally enriching board to serve on. So I just want to voice my appreciation as I hand that off. I know they'll be in very good hands with Commissioner Myers moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Smith. Is there anyone else? All right. We are going to move on to an Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act's overview. Ms. Alden.
Thank you so much. And there are a whole lot of slides in your agenda packet that hit some of the details of the new federal law that provides a number of different grant opportunities, both for planning and infrastructure. The slides were actually prepared by our USF intern this year, who is an amazing young woman, but she has exams this week. So I'm going to be filling in, and I'm just going to hit some of the highlights from this, because if you need a deeper dive, the slides are all there, and you're always welcome to call me. Cheryl, you have the slides up. That's awesome. Could you move to the next slide, please? So the new bill is a significant increase in funding. I think that's the important thing to know. It's almost doubling the amount of federal funding for transportation. So the calculation was about $293 billion, would have about matched what was there before. And there's $274 billion in new spending authority, so essentially almost doubling the transportation funding. This is over a 5-year period, so it will be subject to budget, annual budget decisions. Next slide, please. And just a couple of things to continue to keep in mind about the federal funding for transportation. One is that the gas tax, of course, no longer fully funds the Highway Trust Fund, and so the federal government continues to use general revenue to supplement the gas tax money. This is in the context of continued discussion about how do we address the declining gas tax revenue. And there are a whole bunch of new competitive grant programs in the new federal bill. It is probably going to take a little bit of time for federal highway, federal transit to roll out the rules for all of those new competitive grant programs. Next slide, please. A couple of highlights for Florida. So I'm going to be talking about formula funding versus competitive grant funding. So formula funding means we get a share based on typically the amount of population that we have. There's sometimes other things in the formula too, but the big thing is population. Florida has been at a disadvantage for some time with the transportation funding because the feds have been using the 2000 census numbers. We, of course, were advocating for them to use the 2020 census numbers. We in the other high growth states have been advocating for that. Compromise, they're going to use the 2010 numbers. So it's better than the 2000 numbers, not as far as we wanted to go. On the bright side, because of the increase in funding, overall, that is kind of raising the levels in all of the programs. And so all of these formula categories are up, 25 to 30%-ish, more or less. So highways and bridges, safety, transit, airports, all going up a bit. Next slide, please, Cheryl. So some highlights of the formula programs that the TPO board gets very directly involved with. Next slide, please. So the first one is the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. So when I talk about our board makes direct decisions, has direct authority over about 15 to 20 million a year-ish, it's the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. So that is distributed by formula. It goes from Washington to each of the states. Then at the state level, it's divided up between the DOT and the MPOs. And the share to the MPOs is based on population. So there are a few new Eligible types of projects, overall, we think the funding is going up around 30%-ish in the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. So for us, that means potentially an additional $5 million a year-ish that could be allocated to the projects on our priority list. Next slide, please. The other big category of funding that we have direct decision-making authority over is transportation planning, otherwise known as PL in our federal acronyms. And so this funds the planning studies that you see every year in our Unified Planning Work Program. So this is going up again a little bit, and there are some additional strings attached to it, including coordination with other MPOs in the urbanized area. We're doing that as part of the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance. So checked that box, setting aside 2.5% of our funds for plans that increase the number of safe and accessible travel modes for people of all ages and abilities. So this is very close to the Vision Zero work that we're doing. So we're probably already spending more than 2.5% of our planning dollars on that kind of work. Next slide, please. There is a new formula grant program that will provide some funding for projects on our priority list. So this is the Carbon Reduction Program. You can spend these dollars on any project that helps reduce carbon emissions. Like Surface Transportation Block Grant, the money comes to the states, divided up between the DOT and the MPOs. We're estimating about $26 million a year to the MPOs in Florida. So our share might be about $1 million a year-ish. So, but that could help with things like electric vehicle charging infrastructure or replacing buses or walk-bike improvements. Okay, next slide, please. There's also a new formula grant program for resilience improvements. This is not distributed to the MPOs. It is distributed to the state, but projects that have, so if the MPO has a resilience plan and has incorporated that resilience plan into the long-range transportation plan, which we have, then it's eligible for a larger federal share of funding for that infrastructure improvement. So that work that you all have led as part of Resilient Tampa Bay and integrating that into our long-range transportation plan, that gives us a little bit of a leg up in competing for some of this money for projects here in this area. Next slide, please. So competitive grants. There are a lot of competitive grant programs. I'm going to start with the ones that already exist. So we think that the notices of funding opportunity will come out sooner for the programs that already exist. And then probably the ones that are new will follow that. So next slide, please. The RAISE grants, we've been very lucky with the RAISE grants the last 2 years. You heard the Secretary mention the project in Tampa Heights that Florida T led the application for, and then earlier City of Tampa with the West Riverwalk project and Hillsborough County with the Big Bend Road project. So what's new with this program, historically disadvantaged communities may receive no less than 1% for projects. That's new. And no less than 5% shall be for planning. So I don't know what our chances are of getting another RAISE grant, honestly, because this is going to be a very competitive program. But there is an opportunity to go after planning dollars, potentially. Next slide. The low and no emission bus program, what's new about that? Part formula, part competitive. Next slide, please. And in the intercity passenger rail grants, what's new here is that they've changed the program from focusing on state of good repair to more generally for intercity rail, and added this phrase, to bring world-class rail service to areas outside the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. So that's kind of interesting, and up to 5% can be set aside for corridor planning. So who competes for that? I think that's a great question, and I think it would be a great topic for our meeting on Friday on passenger rail in West Central Florida. Next slide, please. So a bunch of new competitive grant programs. So the TPO's role with these, a few of them are planning related, and I'll highlight those. The rest of them are to support infrastructure. So the lead applicant on those would be one of the local governments or Florida DOT, and we'd be supporting that with some of our planning work. So just some highlights. Next slide, please. A new grant to help with freight-related projects, the National Infrastructure Project Assistance Grant. Next slide. A new bridge investment program. Again, all of these are competitive and not super huge amounts in the total amount nationwide. Next slide, please. The Strengthening Mobility and Revolutionizing Transportation, or SMART grant program, so for smart technologies in our transportation system. Next slide. Grants for charging and fueling infrastructure, so like electric vehicle charging or compressed natural gas, like HART is using. Next slide. There's a new congestion relief program. So we used to use congestion mitigation and air quality dollars to support travel demand management activities in this area, like outreach to support carpooling, ride matching services. This would be a new opportunity to fund some of those kinds of programs. Next slide. The Healthy Streets program, a little bit of money here to help with things like porous pavement and tree cover, urban heat island effect. Next slide, please. Active transportation infrastructure. So this is like walk bike infrastructure primarily. Next slide. Railroad crossing elimination program. This would be, like what we've talked about outside Port Tampa Bay, US 41 50th Street overpass over the rail crossing there. And the next slide, please. Corridor identification and development program as part of the intercity passenger rail process. So this would be potentially for planning for intercity rail. Next slide, the Safe Streets and Roads for All. So that supports Vision Zero plans and implementing Vision Zero plans. So again, we'll have a leg up in helping our local governments since there already is a Vision Zero action plan here. And then next slide, there's some new pilot programs in the bill. Let's just flip through these kind of quickly, Cheryl, if you would. So there's an opportunity to study a vehicle miles traveled fee as opposed to depending on the gas tax. Next slide. Wildlife crossings, that's a new pilot program. Next slide, the prioritization process pilot program. It's for DOTs and MPOs to look at how they set priorities, because there are a lot of folks that don't have the technical capacity that we do. The one that I really want to highlight for you is the next slide, which is called the Reconnecting Communities Pilot Program. And you've probably heard earlier that there were some proposals to look at boulevard conversion grant opportunities. This is what happened with that. And so it would, if we went after this, give us an opportunity to look at planning, either for converting to a boulevard, or for, are there other ways that we can reconnect our communities across a major highway corridor that went through those communities and separated them. Next slide, please. And then there's also a strategic innovation for revenue collection, which is more aimed at toll revenues. That's probably the fastest I can get through all of that. Deep breath.
Well, clearly, there's an awful lot here to digest. Commissioner Overman, you had a question.
Ms. Alden, thank you very much for that. I expect all of you to read everything that was on those slides before Friday's meeting. No, I just want to say how much I appreciate you trying to simplify what is a very complex bill, and your staff has done a great job of highlighting those things. In your opinion, given that you have had probably more time than some of us to take a look at that, many of the programs that you've illustrated here still require some level of local participation in either the grant or the competitive bid applications for many of those programs. Is that still accurate? Because that is the case for much of our federal partnership funding now. I'm just curious if that is still the case with many of the programs that are being discussed in the infrastructure plan.
So in general, with the highway projects, a typical split is 80% federal and 20% state or local. In Florida, FDOT has been able to offer a soft match with toll credits. They've even made that available to a lot of local governments. We haven't heard yet from Florida DOT if they would be able to do that for all of the new programs that are being created. I'm sure they're going to have to crunch the numbers and see how that plays out. But that's definitely helped on the highway side. The transit side, you're still talking about, on those major capital investment grants, you're still talking about maybe 50% federal, 50 local state.
And the rest actually comes from local funds,
Mhm.
assuming we actually have some.
Right.
Okay, that's why I wanted to have a very robust planning conversation about the fiscal financial planning that the communities have to consider when we look at developing transportation plans. And give that information available to those that are actually managing budgets and moving things forward, because it's critically important that information is made available. Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier in the presentation, you mentioned that there was something that was predominantly funded with the gas tax. What's going to happen when gas goes away, and cars are, where everything is rolling out to EV? I think there's a lot of manufacturers that are trying to go fully EV by, within 15 years, but let's say that happens in 30 years, but it's going to happen. What are we going to do then?
You have asked a great question that has caused a lot of consternation for a number of years, and it's not getting any better. I mean, gas tax revenues are declining. So, I think we can talk more about this, but, the most likely opportunity that's been floated is, can there be some way to monitor how many miles you drive your car on a road, either during a month or during a year, and then you pay some fee associated with that. And that's called a VMT fee, a vehicle miles traveled fee. And that's one of the new pilot programs that you see in the bill.
It reminds me of when the city's communication services tax revenues, which were generated by landlines, started to go away. It's the same problem. Efficiency and advances sometimes outlast the taxing mechanism. Commissioner Kemp.
And just to point out, there's a lot of false belief, I used to believe it, that some 50% of our roads are paid for, or 100% actually, paid for by gas taxes. And it has even been more like 50% of all of it. It's been taking out of federal general revenue already because of, reductions in gas use, even though with our growth, with more vehicles that use less gas, but also gas tax hasn't been raised since something like 1996, I think, or that, and hasn't been raised locally and in the state as well. So it has not really been covering the revenue. We're paying it we're paying for our roads, which have gotten quite expensive, with general revenue, maybe not primarily, but a good hefty portion, like 45 to 50%, some states more.
All right, well, we certainly have a lot to talk about with this. This is not the end of the conversation, but rather just the beginning. And I'm sure we'll talk about more on Friday at our TMA workshop. We are going to move on now to item A, which is the Ybor Multimodal Developments. Lisa Silva and Graham Tyrell from Kettler are going to present this. The Tampa City Council members in attendance are welcome to vacate at this time if they would like, as a result of what's going to be covered in this presentation.
Good morning, happy holidays. This is Lisa Silva, TPO staff. Just want to confirm that you hear me and are seeing a map on the screen.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. You guys don't make me nervous. Okay, so I'm also the Livable Roadways Committee liaison, and of course we're into and passionate about multimodal projects. Our committee was identified as the one to help provide comments when we were approached by the Federal Rail Administration and asked to comment on historic resources impacts. So the Brightline high-speed rail project from Orlando to Tampa had a record of decision in 2010. Not unlike our Tampa Interstate study that was adopted way back when you modify it significantly, there has to be a supplemental environmental impact statement. So when the high-speed rail modified their alignment in Tampa, that triggered that. So there's an SEIS. So this dark blue line that goes to what was the old jail site and over by Marion Transit Center was where it was anticipated back in 2010. But now they're proposing to exit around 14th and 15th Street and go down Nucio Parkway and end at Tampa Union Station or the Amtrak area. So instead of over here at Marion, they're coming down through Ybor to Union Station. And you can see that we combined and mapped all the historic resources that we have. So Planning Commission staff and TPO staff gathered together and did that. And we identified a few additional to add to the list that had been from the old historic list. And we had a comment. So we sent them also this Ybor City is a historic district and has many specific historic resources. So that was provided. And then I'll stop here and tell you, again, we were asked to, at this stage, provide input on historic resources. So we did that, but Livable Roadways always goes one farther. So we added that, we have equitable issues. We have historic of equity of Nucio dividing the community. So we shared our resources there. ADA compliance, we wanted to make sure that any new station, et cetera, that comes through, it has full ADA compliance. A lot of comments about historic aesthetics and complementary. And
we seem to have some background noise, so if anyone,
somebody's chiming in.
yeah, if anyone is participating virtually, might mute themselves so we can hear Ms. Silva's presentation.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
then I won't belabor this any longer because the letter that was prepared and sent to them is in your addendum packet. So now I will highlight what you're seeing on the screen now. So this is some ongoing transportation and development efforts that city staff were kind enough to share with us. So many of these you've even touched on earlier in the meeting, the Tampa Heights, some projects going on and the grant that was received there. Then there was another build grant for the West River improvements, and you see the new alignment and extension of the streetcar, the improvements that are going to be going on in the 14th and 15th area, connecting up to East Tampa. And then later, you're going to hear about this Gasworks project in high level today, not in super detail to conflict with the rezoning. And then we all know about Tampa Street. And again, I'll point out, here's where Marion is. Here's where the Brightline's proposed to end. What we don't have is great ways to get to and from and across to these. So this is where everything's been designed to take off and commute to the airport and USF, et cetera, historically. And we have some things here. And also, you'll notice on the streetcar line, we have the little stations. So here's Twigs for reference. So this is not a great easy commute when you're familiar with at-grade opportunities here. So given the big picture of all this land use and transportation coming together today and in the future, and what we've been discussing all during the meeting. We just kind of wanted to highlight some of this so all this can be considered as we go forward. We don't want to design something that's going to then prevent future opportunities. So let's see if I missed any other great projects in here. Okay, so now I will turn it over to Graham. So Graham, if you'll unmute yourself, I'll advance your slides and you can take it from here.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning, board members. This is Graham Terrell with Kettler. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay. Well, pleased to be here today to just give you guys a real high-level overview of the Gasworks project that we're working on. So my company, Kettler, has partnered with Darrell Shaw, who is a local investor and landowner in the Ybor area. Darrell's unfortunately not able to join us today, but we've been working with him now for probably about 3 years. And my company is based up in the Washington, D.C. area. In fact, if you go to the next slide, just a quick overview of my company. So we're a 40-plus year company. We've done a lot of development work up in the Mid-Atlantic. And then more recently have moved down into the Carolinas and Florida, and I'm really excited to be part of the Gasworks project with Darrell. If you go to the next slide, please. Sorry, yep. And one of the things we specialize in is large urban mixed-use developments. So that's why I think, we're a good partner for Mr. Shaw. He obviously has some great, local knowledge and a great belief and vision in the sort of the greater Ybor area. We've done a lot of very similar type projects. These are just a couple of those up in the DC area. Get the next slide, please.
Your audio is dropping off a little, sir.
Oh, okay. Is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So as part of the Gasworks vision, we have a number of sort of principles, and it's sort of interesting, like I highlighted two here, which I think are really very consistent with a lot of the conversation today, particularly the previous presentation on some of the ideas about some of the federal money that's available now in terms of connecting neighborhoods and creating safer streets. And those really are the two things I was just going to sort of focus on mostly in the presentation today. Go to the next slide, please. So this is just to, again, show the area that we're talking about. It's sort of an interesting location. Sorry, slide. Yeah, it's an interesting area. It's sort of tucked in sort of between historic Ybor and the Channel District to the south. It includes what was the former Tampa Park Apartments property that was vacated about a year ago now. And so it also abuts the Encore development as well. And it's sort of mostly an area, other than the old apartment site, that was traditionally just sort of underutilized sites with some light industrial and some parking lots. And it already kind of created a gap between Ybor and Channel District. And so a big part of our vision really is sort of reconnecting these neighborhoods and really bringing in a sort of an urban infrastructure that will allow people to sort of, experience all these neighborhoods almost as a sort of seamless place. Next slide, please. One of the big parts of that is the fact that, over the years, there was a number of sort of redevelopment activities, mostly associated with urban renewal, on the west side of the Nusia Parkway. And that really kind of led to a breakdown of the original urban street grid. So the image on the top left is the old Sanborn map from 1915, which shows that really the sort of the tight grid of streets that exists in Ybor continued west onto the other side of the rail tracks. Rail tracks have always been there. And they've always presented something of a barrier, but in that redevelopment in the 60s, it really sort of started to break down that connectivity. So part of our goal is to sort of reestablish that through creating sort of a street grid that really more represents the original platted grid from when the area was first sort of platted out. Go to the next slide, please. This is just an overview of our master plan and shows the different development parcels. It's quite an extensive area. It's about 40 acres of land. And think it's 15 or 16 different development parcels. You can see there in the middle, we are separated by the CSX and Amtrak rail, and also by Nusia Parkway, and a little bit about that here in a second. But really the idea is, again, to create sort of a much more of a sort of a urban walkable district, a real mixed use development types, and really a place where people can live and work and just enjoy what's already surrounding the area in terms of the great amenities of Ybor and downtown. Next slide, please. So a big part of this, obviously, then is sort of starting to break down some of these sort of barriers that exist today. This is an image on the bottom left corner of Nusia Parkway, although I think that may be prior to some of the recent work the city has done, which has really already started to improve the experience there with the cycle track. But we feel, that could even be taken a step further. And then, as Lisa was mentioning, there's also the potential for rail to exist in this corridor too. And whether that's Brightline, whether that's a light rail system, I think that's all sort of, something for the future. But we do feel like that, taking streets and sort of making them more pedestrian friendly, making them more cycle friendly is a big part of our project too. Next slide, please. And obviously where we're located, we're kind of in this natural spot, if you will, for a convergence of different transit opportunities. The streetcar line there in the sort of pink color already runs through the district. We would like to include, as part of our redevelopment of that area, a new streetcar stop. I think there's a fairly large gap between sort of the stops in the sort of serving down the cruise terminal, and then the next stop is all the way up on the north side of 7th Avenue. So there's quite a gap there, and we think, this with the development that we sort of foresee happening here, and quite a significant increase in population, there would be a great need for another streetcar stop there. But also, as was sort of mentioned earlier, if additional transit opportunities can happen on Nusia Parkway, then obviously connecting together the streetcar and those other forms of transit would be pretty key to creating a successful network. Next slide, please. Bike infrastructure also is a big piece of what we're focused on. Obviously, there's some great elements of that already running through our neighborhood here. The cycle track that I just mentioned on Nusia Parkway, and the green spine that continues on Cass Parkway. There's also the Selman Greenway running underneath the highway there. But I think we have an opportunity here to really connect some of these elements together, and then sort of create that opportunity of both east-west as well as north-south movements for both bikers and anyone really using a multi-use trail. There's also another idea here that is just in its infancy, but we think it's a really compelling one. I think if we go to the next slide, it probably shows a little better. So we've talked to a lot to the folks working on the Water Street project downtown, and part of their next phase of development includes the Ardent Mills site, which is sort of the northernmost piece of Water Street. It includes a rail spur that continues northward up past Union Station, and then would sort of merge into the Gasworks district. So one thing that's currently being thought about is there an opportunity here to create a multi-use trail that could essentially connect the Riverwalk all the way down in Water Street at Sparkman Wharf, continue northwards along the rail spur, and then ultimately pass through Gasworks and on into the Ybor district, using really the CSX tracks as a sort of an area between the tracks and our development, to sort of create the opportunity for a really important trail connection. And the image in there on the right is the High Line in New York, which I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with. So there's some really interesting ways you can take old rail infrastructure and make it into something that really is a great amenity for the neighborhood. Next slide, please. So next up are just a few images of what we foresee as the sort of the vision in terms of the built environment. Obviously, we're seeking a very walkable neighborhood. Part of our site includes an old warehouse building that we really think has a great opportunity for redevelopment into a neighborhood hub as a retail or a community center. And we think part of that would include a very strong pedestrian street. We're calling it 3rd Avenue Paseo that would run south of that area and include connectivity to park space, to the trails we just showed on the other images. Next slide, please. And this is the park space I just referred to, so that the pedestrian street is running along the south side of that, on the right side of this image, in front of those buildings. So again, really trying to create an opportunity not only to sort of have pedestrian-friendly streets, but pedestrian-friendly streets that then sort of incorporate the key civic public spaces that are part of the development as well, the parks, the bike trails, and so forth. So that is sort of the image here, and then slide. And then this is just a general overview of the scale of the development we're referring to here. It's covers a lot of different geographies in some respects. The northernmost area is in the historic district of Ybor, so obviously the buildings are much smaller in scale. And then it sort of slowly increases in size as we move further south and touch the Channel District to the south, as well as along the Nusia Parkway, southern edge. We think there's an opportunity there, particularly if transit is coming in to do more of a transit-oriented development with much higher density. So that's kind of how we foresee the ultimate vision of this area playing out. And I believe that might be the final slide.
It is.
It is. Okay, so that's the presentation. Again, appreciate your time today, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We do have a few hands. Commissioner Kemp.
Yes, there's a lot there, and there's a lot to ask questions about, but I did want to just drill down a little bit on one particular thing. At one point, you said this CSX tracks, and it sounded like you talked about a multi-use, I think, trail. So were you talking about removing the CSX tracks and making that a multi-use trail rather than having availability to the CSX tracks?
No, so yeah, sorry if that was confusing. No, the trail we're talking about would be sort of running almost adjacent to the tracks. Obviously, it would be separated by buffers and fencing and so forth. But really picking that up just north of Union Station as it runs through the gasworks development. The area to the south of us, there's an old rail spur, goes down to the Arden Mill. And I believe that's what the folks at SPP are talking about using as a trail area too. So that's a piece of rail infrastructure that is no longer used.
And one more question with regards to rail. So right now, there is rail that goes from Amtrak once a day from right at Union Station to Orlando. And so I've often thought if we could get it 3 or 4 times a day and start it immediately, that it would be a wonderful connector between Tampa and Orlando. And right now it's just once a day, which makes it pretty unusable for anybody that wants to just go for the day and leave or count on not staying overnight. So how does that fit into this plan at all? Is there any do you have anything to share with regards to that?
No, not really. Our development is really focused on the building. I mean, the Bright Line is something that we're obviously very aware of, and they've sort of talked to us about the potential use of the Nusia Parkway corridor, but we're not really involved in that. And the same is true for Amtrak, in terms of how they may increase their service. I'm not aware of discussion right now.
Thank you.
Councilman Dingfelder, did you have?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions. First, to the young lady who started the presentation in regard to the potential Brightline route and that sort of thing, is it anticipated that that there'll be a stop in Plant City or Lakeland for the for the intercity rail?
The materials that were shared with us said that that potential stop had been removed from the update, the one in Lakeland.
That's unfortunate. And my next question, as related to the gentleman's presentation on the gasworks, I know it's a hot button thing, and I don't want to put anybody in an awkward situation, but do any of your slides show where the potential baseball stadium fits into these plans, and more specifically, how the transportation improvements, especially the ones that the city has applied for, I guess, additional grant money, how those, do you have any of those slides?
Councilman, I have a slide up now that shows what the City of Tampa staff has shared with us, and they show the proposed baseball stadium here in light blue. And then you can see all these colored lines are the infrastructure of transportation improvements. So like 14th and 15th Street, the Green Spine, the Nucio cycle track, its relationship to the Heights. So here's where the stadium is on the proposed map that city staff shared with us. And then right here is the gas works. So you can see their relationship. And then you can see that Brightline would come right down to here, and our streetcar system in its relationship to the location that's proposed. But I'll let the consultant say if they've, I'm just telling you the facts, and then he can tell you whatever.
No, I think that's a good summary, and that just to be clear, that is outside of the gasworks area. So that is a different part of the general area that we're obviously operating in, but it's not in the gasworks development.
None of the fancy photographs or drawings or whatever that you have show the baseball stadium as related to these projects, because it's kind of adjacent and same owner and all that.
Yeah, we have not depicted that on this. This is obviously looking south back towards downtown, so it would be off to the right of the screen there.
Okay, and in regard to the CSX spur, once the flour mill is gone, I don't know if it's still active or not, but once it's gone, there's really no reason for the spur anymore. Is that correct? And what is SPP? Are they talking about buying the land, the underlying land from CSX, or what do we know about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure the details of that. Again, I'm not with SPP, obviously, but we just understand that they do have plans and are working on some designs for that area of the spur, whether that includes the tracks or whether it's removing tracks. I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Overman, I'm going to come to you. I do want to remind everyone it is 1 minute till noon, and we do normally have a hard stop at 12. So, Commissioner Overman, I'm going to come to you, and then I'm going to hopefully, unless anyone else has any questions or wants to speak, we'll wrap up after that.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I appreciate it. There are still a lot of unanswered questions. If we do realize that the downtown interchange improvements is going to dump a significant amount of traffic onto Nucio at 14th and 15th, which the city is trying to develop some strategies for mitigating that as it goes north and or south. We are talking about rail and possible commuter rail options on Friday, so much of this is very preliminary. The good news is at least we're having the conversation. So I'm very happy to see some of these ideas thrown out there. It clearly is, early on to be able to talk about what these options are. But it does look like in almost all the scenarios, there's an opportunity to connect people in that area. So I'm encouraged to see some of these ideas out there. But clearly, we're not in a place where we could actually make any decisions at this point. And I'm sure the city is working on their potential needs. But in this particular case, there's a lot of planning that still yet has to be done. And I look forward to having those conversations as we move towards mobility in the center core of the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Overman, and I think that's actually a great point to end on. This is the beginning of the conversation, but I'm looking forward to actually really looking at this in a lot of detail. This is the beginning of the skeleton that shows how everything connects together. And that, I think, is if as we adjourn for the year, if we look ahead to the year that's coming up, that's going to be our major challenge, is how do we connect everything? How do we connect the neighborhoods? How do we move toward using some of these new funds that are available, these new developments that are coming on board? How do we make those give us transit and transportation alternatives that we've not had in the past? One of our speakers this morning talked about getting cars off the road. This is really the only way to do it. And if these things can all come together, it could create a very efficient system, and hopefully one that would give our community a lot more alternatives than it's had in the past. And on that note, I'm going to turn to our executive director for a brief update, and then we will close the meeting.
Thank you, sir. Our regional workshop on rail on Friday will be available via GoToWebinar for anyone who would like to participate virtually. And if you are going to plan to attend in person, please RSVP so that we make sure that we have space for you. Thank you.
We do also need a quorum for the TMA meeting, too. So those that are on the TMA do need to attend so that we can do a little bit of business that we also have that day. So thank you.
I will be there, but I'm not a member of the TMA, so I don't help your quorum problem. All right, well, our two council members that wanted to speak about Pearl Harbor are no longer here, but it is Pearl Harbor Day. I had the chance earlier this year to visit Pearl Harbor. It is a very moving experience, and it's a great moment to just pause and give thanks at this time of the year for all of the freedoms that we enjoy and the generation that we owe those freedoms to, who fought so hard in the 1940s to keep us free. So with that, if there is no more business, we wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and a very Happy New Year, and a very healthy New Year. And we will see you in January.